pen pals. So you guys know I love to talk to y'all about theme. Why? Because oftentimes writers find it very hard to write theme, to make it present in their stories. And there are a lot of ways that you can tackle it, including just letting your characters do their thing and theme will appear. But I like to give you guys examples of TV shows and feature films that do theme well. And Wicked is in the air. I've been talking about it on here very often, and so has everybody else. So I want you to listen to this clip from this TikTok creator as he does a fabulous analysis of Wicked. Now, there are some spoilers, not only for the current film, but for part 2. So if you don't want any spoilers, then keep on scrolling. Now, what I want you guys to hear is that neither of the characters are wrong. Neither of the characters are right, which means both of the characters are right and both of the characters are wrong. When you create complex characters, right, you create conversations for your audience to take with them. If you can make your characters relatable in their decision making, even if you don't like them as characters, right? Because some of us are looking at Glinda like this here, right? Giving her the side eye. But if you understand her and her place and what she's coming from, then you kind of see it and you know that it's not black and white, or in this case, pink and green. So this clip is a little bit long, but stay in it. You're going to learn a lot.
While we are holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity, let's look to them to try and understand why Glinda did not get on that broom.
Go. What?
Now, I've seen a few people say that this is Glinda being unable to let go of her comfortable, privileged life, and while that is relevant, I think it's a bit complicated by her own lines in the Defying Gravity scene. There's 3 lines I want to look at in particular. The first is, "You've hurt your cause forever."
I hope you're happy how you've hurt your cause forever. I hope you think you're clever.
Regardless of what is the moral choice for Elphaba to take, Glinda is right here. By denying the wizard, Elphaba has made it harder for herself to do anything for the animals. But there's really no way for Elphaba not to. She can't engage in the kind of social engineering that someone like Glinda can. Elphaba cannot hide her emotions, and she cannot stand by when witnessing an injustice, even when doing so temporarily would allow her to prevent it on a larger scale.
Why can you stay calm for once instead of flying off the handle?
If she were to pretend to side with the wizard for just a moment, she could easily have dismantled everything very quickly. But she cannot live a lie like that. It's not just because it goes against her morals and integrity, but it goes against who she is as a person. She just cannot do it anymore. A big part of Defying Gravity is her accepting that about herself, that she cannot pretend to be okay with what's happening. But it's at the expense of the animals that she could be helping, which to her is just a temporary setback because, as Glinda also says, she's having delusions of grandeur.
And I make you understand you're having delusions of grandeur.
It's probably the most important thing to understand. She thinks that she is going to be able to defeat the wizard, not just because she has the Grimmery and all of this magical ability, but because she had a vision of
a celebration throughout us. That's all to do with me.
That is why she thinks she's going to match them in renown. However, that vision is the celebration of her death that we saw at the beginning of the movie. Her singing about it in The Wizard and I is like tragically ironic, and it is affecting her choices here. Glinda is right to think that her plan is rash and not fully thought out. And again, to be clear, none of this is to say that Elphaba is in the moral wrong for making this choice. Simply that her choice is not a strategic one, and we, the audience, know that it is going to end in tragedy for her and seemingly Glinda, who is clearly upset during No One Mourns the Wicked. I'll talk about this further when I get into spoilers for part 2, but first I want to talk about one more line that Glinda has.
If we work in tandem.
very telling that Glinda says the line, "if we work in tandem," when it seems like she is about to accept going with Elphaba. But what does working in tandem actually look like for them, especially given the previous lines that Glinda said? The social engineering that Glinda excels at requires a level of status and power. She can do all of these social things that Elphaba could not. Not only does Glinda see that Elphaba is overestimating her own powers, but Glinda does not even have a fraction of them. If Glinda went with Elphaba, they would not be working in tandem. Glinda would be doing nothing. She would lose her status and only source of social power by becoming a fugitive in the same way that Elphaba is about to. But at the very least, Elphaba is a powerful witch. She is still going to be capable of doing things on her own. Glinda is not, and this is something that Glinda has been thinking about since the beginning of the film. Both Glinda and Elphaba at the beginning wanted what each other had. Glinda wanted to be a powerful sorceress, and Elphaba wanted to be popular and loved. And this moment in Defying Gravity is a form of self-acceptance for both of them. They are embracing themselves rather than trying to be each other. It has already been made clear that Glinda is willing to sacrifice her social status for Elphaba.
What are you doing? Stop.
Throughout the whole movie since Popular, she has been concerned about not just her own ambition, but Elphaba's as well. With all of this in mind, it makes much more sense, to me at least, that her not getting on the broom has less to do with her being unwilling to give up her status because it would be giving up comfortability, but rather her being ambitious enough to understand that giving up her status is giving up all of her capabilities, and after doing so, she will not be able to do anything. And she knows Elphaba's plan is not fully thought out, so she is not going to be able to help her friend in any way unless she stays. And I think this is something that both her and Elphaba come to terms with. They both know that if Glinda went with her, then she would actually just be holding Elphaba back. No matter how we feel about either of these approaches, the text is not really saying one is better than the other. We can say one is better if we think it is, but that's not what the musical is saying, and I don't think it's the direction that the movies are going to go in either. Also, to be clear, she is not necessarily going to do all of the things that Elphaba would have if she was able to be this social engineering type that Glinda is. Her priority in this conversation is her friend. The animals are simply an extension of that. That's why she refers to it as Elphaba's cause, not their cause or something. It's complicated and really should be discussed with the nuance of Act 2. That is an unfortunate consequence of them splitting this movie. I think it was a good choice, and I really like that they turned this into as long of a movie as they did, but a lot of people have only seen Part 1 and are unaware of what's going to happen in Part 2, which really can inform a lot of this further. And on that note, let's get into some spoilers. Elphaba acknowledges in For Good that she is limited, and she needs someone like Glinda to do basically everything that Elphaba had been hoping to accomplish. At the beginning of this movie, Glinda is pretending to hate her because Elphaba gave them a scapegoat and made Glinda promise not to tell them the truth of what happened, and instead allow them to hate her and blame her for everything. In the second act, Elphaba realizes that everything that she hopes to accomplish has to be done by somebody like Glinda. Elphaba herself is limited. In the end, change happened because Glinda stayed. Also because Elphaba left. They needed to work in tandem in their own ways. And I think the Part 1 movie does a really good job at setting up the fact that this is the direction that it's going to go in. I understand why someone might come out of this movie, or even the whole musical, disliking Glinda. I think there's a lot of value in at least understanding that Glinda is a dynamic character that changes over the course of not only the whole musical, but just this movie alone as well. And while we might view her as a morally complex character, that doesn't mean that she's the villain.
Happy writing!
And that's it. Want more content? Like, subscribe, and for notifications. Get notes on your script that get you unstuck at www.theprofessionalpen.com. I'm out.